applied AI that solves real problems and pays in 60 to 90 days. And of course, this is built for motivated and inquisitive. And just to let you know, the next hustle isn't an app. It's actually up here. That's just a mechanism. So today, it's really about applied problem solving. And what that means is that everybody in here today officially has the title of engineer and project manager. Because every day you're solving problems in your life, and you may only do it for you, but what this is set up to do is to show you how to scale that and solve just issues that you deal with, your pain points for other people, and get paid for it. So, once again, this is me. They gave me my mugshot. These are different evolutions of my life. Initially, when I started my career, I worked at this little company called General Motors, and then I went to Ford Motor Company, and I was actually an engineer. But I was doing something really boring that I had no idea would turn into where we are today, and that is, I was getting in vehicles, you remember those crash test dummies that you used to see the commercials and stuff for? I was getting in these vehicles with these crash test dummies, and they would have me like put a coffee mug or a McDonald's big cup gulp in their hand and take pictures of them. And I was like, why are they paying me this much money to take pictures of mannequins? Well, I didn't know that what we were doing at that point in time was something that was called neural network training. And if you have heard that term before, neural network training is basically the foundation for large language models, which, just to take the Greek out of it, that's ChatGPT, that's Perplexity, that's all of these different AI technologies that you see. So I've run the gamut. Right now, I'm operating as a lead project manager for the oldest CDFI in the country. They own about 130 credit unions in state and federal licensing, and they actually have a mission to narrow the racial wealth gap. And of course, that's money. That's what we do every day. I helped co-found a project management academy and a community for people that fall into situations where they're managing projects but aren't really formally trained. And that's kind of like all of us. And then they put me back in school to go to Cornell University to get certifications in what I had actually done 20 years previously. So it just gave me a refresher. And then I started developing products. So over the last 2.5 years, I've developed about 50 AI agents. And I'll explain that to you as we get deeper into this. But my goal really today is not to impress you, is to impress upon you that I am no different than everybody else. I'm actually a lot older than a lot of you in here. And this is something that works for everybody. I mean, it's not age discriminatory. The one thing that we in the AI field are worried about, at least people that look like me, is what we call embedded bias and implicit bias. So to simplify that, what that means is that if you're taking a trip somewhere and you go through Clear and the AI system doesn't recognize your face, it's because you need to be one of the programmers for that technology. So I did a few other things, but let's get into what we're going to talk about today. So today's agenda, we're going to frame some small problems, big outcomes, and why now is the perfect time. I'm going to show you what an opportunity map is and explain that in layman's terms. We're going to give you what we call a 5-step micro solving problem, an analysis, a way for you to do analysis to actually understand where you could possibly create a product that can create value. And then we're going to look at some mini cases. I'm not going to take you into, what's up, John? We'll take you into some mini cases, and then we're going to talk about guardrails and ethics, what type of things you need to really have into your technology. And then after that, we're going to take some questions. So I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly, not confuse you, because we having a kitchen table talk right here. They didn't put me on the big stage. I know it's probably because it's my first time here. They was like, we don't know what this dude gonna say. So he from the West Side. I said, that's why I say, what up though? Exactly. So today what we're gonna learn is we're gonna identify high value frictions, just different ways that you can quickly check things in your community, in your industry, wherever. We're going to show you how to design some tiny automations. We're going to choose a monetization model, how you get paid, because there's some secrets and some understandings to basically maximize the way you get paid from these. We're going to look at measuring what matters. How do you know that you're picking up the right information to basically deliver value to the community that you want to create a product for? And then how to apply guardrails. In the formal sense, they call this compliance. But there's some ways to basically get around that if you don't have a huge volume. There's like thresholds of compliance for these different technologies. Now, framing. Small problems, big outcomes. As I said in the beginning, the next hustle is not an app. It's basically your ability to really understand and see problems, because you're going to be able to spot everyday problems, and then you're going to look at the different types of lightweight technologies that are out there that people aren't touching on. Like, have you ever seen something and you're like, somebody probably already invented that? Well, you know what? I've been saying that over and over again for years. And then finally somebody will create something. I'll be like, I thought of that 9 years ago. And it's because at the end of the day, most people don't write stuff down, and most people don't follow up on stuff. Even if it's a great idea, they automatically assume that nobody else is actually going to do it and get to it. So they never do it. They figure somebody else has done it for them. So what we're talking about here is no hype, no heavy rebuilds. OCR, basically ocular recognition, and large language models to end some paperwork pain. That's just an example. But agentic agents to reclaim your hours. Like I said, I've developed about 50 agents in the last 2 years. And some of them were very simple. And then I got some very, very extensive ones that I learned how to develop over the course of time. And I'm going to show you one that actually I produced, and it's a product that is enterprise quality. And then how we get the money, because, Detroiters, we about that grind. That Skrilla, that cashola. The opportunity map. So there are huge problems out here that AI has the computational ability to solve. But in those areas that we look at, there's these, what I call these societal problems. And that takes a lot of money and a lot of brain power and a whole lot of effort. It takes a lot of us together to solve problems because we need that thought diversity. You don't want to go into that arena. You can do that after you get rich from creating your low-end AI. But at the end of the day, there are problems that we deal with that are what I call hobby-based and career-based. These are areas that you work in, all the time, because you know what makes you not want to get up to go to work because somebody else's assignment is falling in your lap. And you're the best at it, so you inherit it. So those are the places that you basically can find different ways to create these different types of applications. So as I say, the places where we live, work, learn, and play. So things for house management, personal finance, coordinating your family. Like my family, the Roziers, this is a whole bunch of us. We have to have 4 family reunions per year, or every 2 years, excuse me. So we went to DC, and it was kind of, a challenge because it was only a quarter of the family that was there in DC. But these were some places where I was sitting up there thinking, I could have created an agent to manage this. Now, work. Document processing, meeting management, workflow bottlenecks. And all the workflow bottleneck is something that basically is a problem for everybody. And nobody comes and creates a solution until some company walks into your business, tries to sell you something that isn't as good as what you thought the solution should be, but they give that company a PO and a check and monthly revenue, and you could have done it. Now, the way we learn, knowledge management, skill acquisition, information synthesis, everything. He just looks at it. He's like, oh, that's a so-and-so, so-and-so. That's a shark. That's a orca. Orcas eat sharks. I'm like, dude. And then play, entertainment curation, social coordination, hobby optimization. They gave us this little app called WOA. And when I saw the app, of course, my mind is working. You know, it's like I'm trying to find this stuff in this area, and I could think of ways to enhance the app already. Because every time I went to one of the maps in the WOA app, it didn't connect me to WhatsApp. I mean, it didn't connect me to Waze. It didn't connect me to Google Maps. It didn't connect me to anything that showed me where I was. It was just out in space somewhere. And I'm out in the parking lot limping around because I sprained my ankle a couple days ago, and I'm like, I need to. Matter of fact, this young lady helped me find the building. But at the end of the day, what we're looking for tasks that cause time loss, errors, or delays. These are your opportunity zones. Now, the 5-step micro problem is just this simple. You need to scout. And scouting is just, you're having simple conversations with at least 10 people. Because when people have pain points, everybody is great at sharing pain. They always want to hand you off that smoldering bag of crap. They'll always just share it with you. So you can just have, you can have your little framework, your questions. You can ask somebody about, where they're dealing with. Now, this obviously has to be in a scope. You're not just asking them. You're targeting an area in particular, something that you think there may be some value. So you want to capture the top pains in that area. Write it down, put it in your phone, whatever. And then you want to create what we call a scoring matrix. And the biggest thing that you're looking for is who is impacted and how much does that impact cost them? So then the feasibility, how much difficulty is it in creating what I call a test, basically, to determine if this is something that will work? And then the next thing is you want to do a time to value. How long will it take you to actually create something utilizing these tools that are out there? Is it something that you could do in 3 weeks or a month that could actually make you some money? And there's so many plug-in components that take place. We'll talk about that as well. But if you can find 2 of these that actually work within your ideas about what that that problem is, there may be an opportunity to actually create a product and make some money off of it. Now, you want to be able to prototype. We call this tiny automation with human in the loop. All that means is that before you get the answer delivered, there's a person that sees it, that understands that whole value chain, that can say, yeah, this works, or no, we need to change this in how your AI agent is actually performing this process or whatever. And then you want to be able to measure it. Now, we use a fancy word in the industry, KPI. That's a key measurable, key performance indicator. Thank you. I have so many of these presentations, sometimes I forget all the code words, but bottom line is I got a smart group here now. Y'all good. So you want to have one baseline KPI, and then you want to point to what is success in solving that KPI, and you want to measure that over 2 weeks. You want to have a certain number of interactions or engagements to basically have enough data, but at the end of the day, that can tell you whether there's greater indication. So it's like you're in a funnel and you're narrowing yourself to a certain point where you're like, I got it, bam. And then you want to monetize. So we're going to talk about different models, done for you, DFY, revenue share, or you want to license the technology. If you license the technology, that's a little bit different because you got some compliance issues to deal with. Like if you're putting a product on, on the, App Store or Google Store or whatever, Google App Store, it's some things that you got to have in place inside of that product so that you're not basically just spreading people's information all over the world. Now, scouting for problems we're solving. This is where we talked about the 10 conversation method. So you want to talk to people in that environment. You want to really understand what takes too much time out of their day. You know, a problem that everybody's dealing with. And they just, you know, they just get comfortable with the mess. And then they're just like, no, you got to kick the thing 3 times, turn around, jump up and down and say, whoo, and then it'll work for you. And everybody just does it. You know, it's like the chicken with the legs cut off because the pot was too small when grandma was working with it. Now, what errors commonly happen? What causes the most delays or bottlenecks? And you're asking them these questions. If you could automate one of these things, what would it be? What would it be? Because all you really have to do is solve one big, hairy problem that's painful to everybody, and it's worth it for people to give you money. Now, when you start looking for these patterns across these conversations, these are creating what we call validation for your concept. And the more conversations you have, like I said, 10 conversation method, if you have access to 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, it just gives you more confidence that you're basically targeting the right features that thing is solving. So, now, this is a project, a product that I actually created that does exactly what I'm telling you about. It went from a micro solution to now it's turned into an enterprise level product. So, this is a real world approach. The problem for people like me that were project managers and leaders, and I say project leaders because you don't have to have the title of project manager to be leading projects. You know, we call them accidental project managers. You happen to be the person that shows up on time to work every day, and they're like, oh, he's mature, he can handle it. So you look up and your boss basically throws you the project. You haven't been trained in Agile, you haven't been trained in none of this stuff. The only thing you do is you pick up a few words and phrases to know that a sprint means that you're supposed to be in the office at 9 o'clock. But outside of that, it's tight. So the solution with my project was Align IQ unifies project information. The AI basically gives powered insights to basically tell you what to do and when and how to handle the people. And then the result is increased project success rates, because like 75% of projects fail or go out of cost. And most people don't even know that. And it's something that project managers just accept. And they've been doing it for all the time that I've been in the industry, which has been greater than 30 years. So the same problem has not been solved, and I just decided to get up, off my thing and solve it. And AI gave me the solution. So let's see if we can get you a, little.
Starting your day as a project leader. Calm, confident, and in control. Your team knows exactly what to do. Stakeholders are aligned. Risks spotted before they ever become problems. But for most leaders, the reality is utter chaos. Deadlines closing in without a clear framework. Stakeholders shifting priorities daily. Tools that don't talk to each other. And yes, you're on Reddit at midnight debating agile versus waterfall before tomorrow's sprint planning. What if instead of reacting to chaos, you could lead with instant clarity? A system that thinks like a leader and adapts to how you work best. Meet Align IQ, your project leadership intelligence system. In seconds, it matches your real world challenges to the right frameworks. Aligns every stakeholder with one clear message. Cuts research time in half. Spots risks before they derail progress. And plugs right into the tools you already use. With Align IQ, you lead with confidence, not guesswork. You make faster, smarter decisions. Your team actually feels supported. Your projects on time, on scope, and without the burnout. You don't need another tool. You need a system that turns your leadership. Start your free 5-minute clarity sprint now and lead your next project with total control, confidence, and zero guesswork.
Woo! Let me figure out if I can get out of here. Now, he don't develop no I. Let's see. Come on now. There we go. Okay. So this is just some more images and stuff, but I'm gonna tell you guys, to be honest, when I started this, you guys ever gone into like Office Depot or one of those places? You ever seen those 3M stickies, the real big ones? They like, yeah, those huge ones. I literally started this from some ideas where I bought this big old 3M sticky and then bought the little normal ones that we have in like 5 different colors. And I just literally wrote down the problems that I have. So this technology that you see came from 3M stickies and the little stickies in like 5 different colors. And I was just literally writing down the problems that I was solving, or what I call jobs to be done, and who wasn't doing them. And from that, I created an enterprise class software where I'm told as of last night that I got like 90 companies in the metropolitan Detroit area in the auto space that actually want to see it. So as as you go through these things, it does analytics. It basically matches profiles to the teams, because most of the biggest issues that people run into when they're doing projects is communication and basically the people not being aligned. It's not always the technology. That's why I said the next hustle is not an app. It's basically being able to communicate with people that have a job to do. And AI can't do everything. It will do some. But no. This is like the website and everything like that. And it was built with AI. It was built with AI. But now, step 2, you want to be able to score the opportunities. So how much time and money is saved or created? That's the biggest issue that, that's the value proposition when you're talking to somebody that you want to pay you money. And there's a lot of small businesses out here and medium-sized businesses that the owners spend so much time working in the business that they can't take the time to look at what's coming in the future and basically make provision to get into that area. It's like right now, there's people working so hard that they don't know that AI is not coming, it's here, and they could actually be finding new money in the business, but they don't have time to come to something like this and learn about this. So their business is struggling because basically they're too tired to be able to have any other gray matter thoughts to help themselves. So what that means is that that's an opportunity for everybody in this room, because you're here and you can take in this knowledge, you can learn a process, and then you can actually create something that works for them. And like I said, age ain't nothing but a number. I'm 61, I still hoop. What up though? So it's like, I got the understanding about what the shift could be at 58 years old. I talked to a guy 2 days ago, he was 76. He was laying out stuff to me that actually, in my mind, I was like, I can help you develop a AI product for school systems. And he's ready to go. So how many hours a week can be saved, error reduction percentage rate, and then that tells you what your revenue potential can be. And I'm gonna tell you a secret about revenue potential so that you understand if you only have access to a few customers, there's better ways to set up your pricing model. And then the feasibility, can it be solved with the current AI tools? If you're in some area where it's literally stretching the capabilities of AI, a lot of AI models, when they change or update the versions, they fail. So you have to really understand if you're solving what I call a static problem that nobody else, because you can build the revenue with something that's static or low end, and then as the technology capability upgrades, you just simply upgrade your agents. So, data availability, technical complexity, and integration requirements. You want to try to find stuff that's simple. And then time to value, how quickly can you show results? We say, in some instances, 30 to 60 days. I developed the core of my project in about 45 days, but to get it past the beta point, it took me about 4 months. And I was okay with that because the more information I got, the more value I figured I was adding. And I knew that it would be better for me to put something out that actually worked than to have something that had hype and failed when I put it in front of the first customer. So that's what we got to take into consideration. So implementation time, adoption barriers, validation speed, and it's okay to have somebody pilot your product because that's just what we call social proof. So once you get these things, and you can do this on a spreadsheet, you don't need AI to do this, but once you get these things laid out, then you want to give each one of them a scoring factor of 1 to 5, 5 being more significant value for the product. And then you want to multiply the impact, feasibility, time to value in each one of those categories. And then you want to focus only on opportunities that give you a 60 plus score out of potentially 125. Now, prototype your tiny automation. See, she got braids. She about to get it in. Components of an effective prototype. So you want to use the LLM for understanding, reason, and generating because it's holding so much knowledge. OCR, like I said, this is the example for document and imagery processing. Like a lot of OCR systems can recognize patterns in text. And that'll help you because essentially that's what you do when you're reading. So the human in the loop for quality control in various edge cases, this is basically where you as the subject matter expert, knowing what's going on in that area, is able to impart and say, this is correct, this is incorrect. And if you find something that's incorrect in your product, what does that mean? Anybody know? Yeah, it doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you found a place where you need to enhance the agent or where you need to fix some coding or something like that. And the nice thing about today's application is so much coding has been templatized. So much coding has been templatized. For these smaller case applications, you just have to know what you're trying to explain to the AI for it to actually produce the information that you need. So you don't have to be a top-notch coder. You just have to understand the business value. Now, you want to start small, solve that one specific pain point completely so that it's consistent. And then once you start and you have this problem solved completely, essentially you're ready to basically sell that product. You know, because if you solve that problem, when whoever your customer is says, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? You're like, well, you told me that this was your primary problem. Now, do you want everything to work just part of the way, or do you want to solve this problem? And if you're solving that problem, then at the end of the day, it's worth it for them to pay you. And you can say, now, you know what, when you start paying me, I can reinvest more into my development, and we're going to solve that problem too. But right now, let's just worry about this problem. I'm giving you back 5 to 10 hours a week. Now, measure what matters. We talked about key KPIs. You want a baseline KPI, a success KPI, and then you want to basically measure that over a couple of weeks. If you got something a little more complex, maybe it's a month, or if you got a lower number of people to give you feedback in the feedback loop, then maybe you stretch that out for a month. But at the end of the day, you want to talk to people that you know are dealing with this issue. And the example metrics are time saved for the task per week, what the error reduction percentage is, how fast you can push that information through the system. Like, you know, if you can turn around, instead of it taking 3 or 4 days for your customer to pay you, if you can turn that around to 1 day or instantly, that's a lot of money, new money that's being generated that's going into their accounts. Because every time you finance your customer, you got a risk point where if I'm saving you or creating for you the amount of compute I needed and everything like that, so I was ready to sell it to them, you know, for like